SportsZone. I'm your host, Lucero, and before we get into the rest of sports today, the Texas Wrestling Championship is this Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Pole Rec Center. Students can get in for $5, so make sure to go out, support the UNT wrestling team. Now, for SportsZone, joining me, Luke Rimler and Alex Salazar. Guys, we're going to talk about the UNT basketball game happening tonight. UNT's been on a roll lately. It was a bit of a slow start to the season. Things weren't really going exactly as you had hoped. But now, on a 3-game win streak and a big game tonight. Luke, what have you seen from UNT basketball over the last couple weeks? Yeah,
I've been way more impressed. I remember at the beginning of the season, it just felt it was a whole new team, whole new coaching staff, whole new everything. And it was so hard to get into it. They just got off to such a slow start. But recently, obviously Dylan Arnett's been good all year. Jashawn Stevenson, he's been great. And recently, as you mentioned, 3-game winning streak, and got Tulane tonight. Just beat Memphis at the crib. It was amazing, great game. Dylan Arnett with a block to end the first half. They've been so much more fun to watch, and, take the dub tonight.
Yeah, they've definitely been a lot more fun to watch. It's been exciting. You mentioned the Temple game. Alex, that was a big-time comeback for UNT. They were down early, and it was really a rough first half. But I think for the first time in a minute, the UNT team has really been able to respond very well to that adversity. What did you see from them in the Temple game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a really close win that they had against Temple. And, when heading into conference play, this team was sitting at 9-4. Like Luke said, there were a lot of questions about this team. I mean, a whole completely new roster. Not a single player from last year's team is here now. And, most of this team came in from transfers. I think about 4 or 5 of them came from Cleveland State, so you really didn't know. But this team is finally starting to find its footing. They had a 4-game losing streak in conference play, but they finally have begun a winning streak. And that big win against Memphis, I think, really kickstarted this team in the right direction. Like we just needed to stack wins, start stacking wins, start building confidence, especially now that we're getting towards the end of the season. Postseason's coming up. This conference, it's not a particularly strong conference. Teams at the top like UAB and Tulsa, they seem vulnerable. Tulsa even, UNT has a win against Tulsa, so, things are definitely looking up for UNT overall.
Absolutely. You kind of mentioned the origin of this little win streak here. You first had that win against UTSA, where definitely an inferior opponent, but still a good way to get started. And then the Memphis game, we previewed that on SportsZone last Tuesday. I know me and Luke were able to make it there right after the show. We got the second half. And this was a game where UNT really responded well. The first national ESPN Central game right here. Not ESPN2, not you, true ESPN here for the first time in Denton. And they really responded well. We talked about the pressure of a national stage and how much a big win like that against a big opponent can make a difference for this team. And it really feels like they did. They used that, took the momentum into Temple. Luke, what did you see specifically from the Temple game?
The Temple game, it was obviously we had that big comeback in the second half. I really liked, we had the stars like usual, Dylan Arnett, Sean Stevenson, as I mentioned before. Then you also had David Terrell, and you had E.J. Horton finishing the game really strong. David Terrell only shot 1 for 9 on the game, but he was 6 for 7 from the line, and just the free throws looked a lot better. They're shooting just 70% from the line on the year, with Dylan Arnett only shooting 45 from the line. He's shooting 48 from the floor, so that's an appalling number. So it's really a lot of free throws, and David Terrell was able to land those, and I think that was the big part of the success, is just the role players being able to come out and finish. I feel like that's been part of the problem, is finishing the games, and sometimes the role players are what you need.
It's a great point, and this is a game where, like you said, it was a slow start. They found a way to get back on track. Arnett had 14 points, Jashawn Stevenson 13, and E.J. Horton 12 points and 4 rebounds as well. So really a good way for them to step up. This is not a team that is going to be led by one superstar. You kind of had that early in the season with Will McClendon. This was supposed to be sort of your main guy, the offense run through him. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL just 4 games into the season, so you don't have that anymore. Now it's much more of, like you said, the reserves. Who can step up on any given night? Alex, who do you think could really step up for this team, and especially going into tonight's game?
I think it's the guy that right now leads the team in points. I think it is Jashawn Stevenson. Okay. I got to talk to him and Will McClendon towards the beginning of the year, and getting a feel for who Jashawn was, you could see the talent even in that first season at Cleveland State. He was I believe it was the Horizon Conference, the Horizon League, the freshman of the year. So you saw the talent, you saw the promise with Stevenson, and now that with McClendon unfortunately out, he's been given the keys to the offense, and you see what he's doing. Nearly 17 points a game, and he's getting it done. He's shooting a little under 40% from the field. You'd like to see that up, but the points are there. He's really been the catalyst for these recent wins so far, and he's going to be the catalyst if he can get this team further into March.
Absolutely. He's really stepped up over recent weeks, and I really look for him to continue to develop and really maybe step into that kind of one role. I think he really has that potential. It's going to be exciting to continue to watch him. But tonight, UNT taking on Temple. After the win streak, UNT is now up to 15-11, still 6-7 in conference, so a little bit of ground to make up there. Taking on Tulane, who's 15-10, 6-6 in conference play. Luke, what are you looking to see from UNT tonight against Temple? Do you think they can get this win?
I have 3 keys. I think you need to attack early, stay on top. The thing with Temple is, yeah, we came out with the win, but started slow and it got scary. Had the great comeback, but you need to get on top early. You need to ride your stars, Dylan Arnett, Jashawn Stevenson, and then you need to make your free throws. And we've talked about that already on the show. You need to make your free throws. Shooting 70% from the line as a team is beyond terrible. And it's gotten better recently. I think it was down to 62 at one point in the year or something. And it's just, you need to make your free throws, I think, is the biggest out of all the problems.
Absolutely. From day one of this team, when they started back last year, it has really been one consistent has been the free throw shooting. It just, for some reason, has not really been what you're looking for. This is a team that is a scrappy team. I think, we talked about it. They really have a lot of different players who can make plays, but making/missing free throws can really be the complete, point of a game going one way or another. This is a team that has to be competitive in these games in every aspect. And when you give up free points like that, I think we've continued to see that result. Losing close games, and they have been better, like you said, over recent games. Alex, do you think they can continue to do better from the free throw line?
I think they can. I mean, it really is just something that will get better with practice. And I think in this game, another key to look out for is how they defend Rowan Brumbaugh, the Tulane leading scorer. He's going to be the key focus on the defensive side for Tulane. And, this team, even back when Ross Hodge and Grant McCasland were the coaches, it's been a defensive-focused school, a defensive-focused team. And even now, to an extent, that still is the focus and the identity of this UNT team. So I'd like to see how they defend a high scorer and a key focus like Brumbaugh is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be important for them defensively. This is a team that focuses a lot on defense. Daniel Robinson tried to bring over that physicality and that defensive attack. And Daniel Robinson, obviously, in his first year, like most of the players, Luke, I'll ask you, what have you seen from him so far, and what other adjustments do you think this team can make down the stretch?
I mean, honestly, there's not a lot you can expect with an entirely new roster. And you have the players that you've had before, right? But it's an entirely new school, entirely new roster for the school. A lot of the guys haven't played together. Obviously, some of them have at their previous school. And there's not a whole lot you can expect jumping into D1 like this, even though it's just the American Conference. It's a big jump up to D1. And, you can't expect much, I feel like, from this team. They're younger. They're not as experienced. And they're we're over 500. We have a shot at the NIT. We have a shot at the conference tournament. So I really think, honestly, it's been a successful season, all things considered.
Yeah, it's fair. There's definitely a lot of turnover. You talked about players, of course, the coach as well. This was always going to be a learning curve for this team. I think we've seen and kind of been spoiled by some really, really good recent success over the last few seasons. So it's sort of hard to kind of step into a bit of a rebuild, but that's just kind of the reality of being a smaller school, of being sort of a middle ground type of area. But now we have seen some improvement. We've seen this progress. And now with UNT 10th in the American Conference, right on the bubble of that AAC Conference Championship tournament potential. Alex, do you think they have a chance to really lock in the season and make it in?
I think they do, and I think it's going to start today. Over-under set at 6.5. Give me UNT, I'll say, final score 82-76. UNT get the victory.
All right, you heard it here first. We'll have to watch. Make sure to get that game starting at 8. Make sure to tune in. But for now, we're going to move on and talk about the Winter Olympics coming up next.